Yesterday, it was announced there is bipartisanship. Good news, everyone. They've got a deal. And it's going to be this infrastructure package that will be passed in the Senate and then apparently accompanied with something done via reconciliation. Those involved in the negotiations were very excited, as you'll see in this clip.
And to answer your direct question, we have a deal. And I think it's really important. We've all agreed that none of us got what we wanted.
You know, there are many who say that bipartisanship is dead in Washington, D.C. and across this country.
Just proud to be part of a bipartisan group, which I know has always been there, always can be there, and always will be there if we work together like we did.
But this reminds me of the days we used to get an awful lot done up in the United States Congress. We actually worked on it. We had bipartisan deals.
This historic agreement today between Republicans and Democrats in the Senate and with the President of the United States shows that when a group of people who are committed with shared values to solving the problems and challenges our country faces, we can use bipartisanship to solve these challenges.
And I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us to show the rest of the world that we can still get big things done in a bipartisan way and lead the rest of the world.
You know, a lot of us go back a long way where we're used to doing one thing, give each other our word, and that's the end.
That video, man, they really got a bunch together there. Amazing diversity ideologically, pigmentally, a lot of diversity on display there. You know it's gonna be a great process going forward when Kyrsten Sinema is one of the first people they trot out to talk about it. But we have some reasons already to believe that it might not go as smoothly as Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, who said there's going to be another bill through reconciliation. Sure, this one's not great, but we're gonna have this other one. It's gonna be super smooth. Well, there's reasons to believe that that's not necessarily the case. But before we even get to that, I wanna talk to the panel and see what you think about the fact that this particular group of 5 Dems, 5 Republicans have come together and come up with something. They can still do great things, they said. Let's start with you, David. What did you think?
Well, to me, it looked like theater. It looked like they were more interested in trying to grab the headlines for a day or two and to say, oh yes, bipartisanship, look at what we've accomplished. And then in the fine print, it's, oh, well, it's gonna take us 3 months to pass this. We're gonna have to link this to a reconciliation bill that no Republican is gonna support. And there's enormous pressure on Sinema and Manchin because of that linkage, so this might not cross the finish line anyway. And oh, by the way, the US House is not gonna take up this infrastructure bill until the reconciliation bill passes. So the fine print to most Americans is gonna be like, they didn't reach a deal here. For one day, yes, they agreed on some principles about what should be in this infrastructure package, even though it wasn't what a lot of Democrats wanted. But I'm still extremely skeptical that this ever becomes law, that they ever spend a dime from this bill, because I don't see how they get this thing across the finish line over the summer.
Yeah, Adrienne, more optimism, perhaps? What are you feeling?
No, I completely agree with David here. It just seems like a lot of appearances as opposed to actual purpose. And the thought that Biden really wants to have this whole bipartisan, reaching across aisles, showmanship thing. The thing is, it's not going to bring about substantive change. So I really wish it would kind of just drop this and we can be real about where things stand, because as far as they stand right now, the Republicans are definitely going down their lane 100%. And we have people like Joe Manchin who are not opposed to that actually happening.
Yeah, and honestly at this point, like I would love, as you're saying, let's keep it straight, say what's actually happening. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if anything is going to happen, because today we found out that if everything goes according to the plan, so if they have this deal and everyone sticks to it and they don't filibuster it or whatever, and the House picks up and the Senate picks up this bill that they'll go through via reconciliation, and the parliamentarian is in a particularly good mood, then this will take 3 months, which brings us dangerously close to the point in which everyone in America will agree, the election's only a year away, why should we be doing anything? That's assuming that things go to plan, and you'll be shocked to find out that things are very much already starting to unravel. You had Lindsey Graham, who said when he apparently discovered that there would be this reconciliation bill, if he's gonna tie them together, speaking of Biden, he can forget it. I'm not doing that, that's extortion. I'm not going to do that. The Dems are being told you can't get your bipartisan work product passed unless you sign on to what the left wants, and I'm not playing that game. He added that most Republicans could not have known that Biden also planned to request a multi-trillion-dollar budget resolution, which will likely include key elements of his family and climate change plans. And And if we can cue up the third video, the McConnell video, this is going to become a great talking point on the right, which is, wait, there could be another bill that's being passed. I never knew. I certainly didn't know about that, and am now using that to derail the bipartisanship. Here, let's go to the minority leader.
I was initially optimistic, but you could best be described as a tale of two press conferences. After the first one, the president walks out with a bipartisan group and blesses an infrastructure bill that many of my members are quite optimistic about. And then after all of those people depart the White House, the president goes out for the second press conference and says, unless you pass my tax bill, I won't sign the infrastructure bill. So what it does is put my members, including myself, who were optimistic about doing a bipartisan infrastructure bill, in the position of our Democratic friends having to guarantee that the 2017 tax bill is unwound. That's our one red line. We're not going to revisit the 2017 tax bill, which is an enormous success for the country, led us to the best economy in 50 years as of February 2020. And so I think we've gone from optimism to pessimism as a result of the president's second press conference. So I would say we need to keep talking here because I think the bill to be bipartisan is going to have Republican support.
It's just so mean of Biden to have killed the optimism, the hope in his eyes. This young, fresh-faced senator who just wanted to fix the problems of America. Yeah, he's definitely not lying there when he says that Biden has pulled the rug out from under the bipartisan negotiations. Or we could throw Louisiana Republican Bill Cassidy, who said he was blindsided by Biden's remarks. Well, will you be surprised to find out that Biden has been talking about the possibility of doing a narrowly tailored bipartisan bill with a wider bill via reconciliation for at the very least 2 months openly? That nobody have discovered that this week. It wasn't news this week. They're just using it conveniently to get out of something that they've already agreed to, because again, they want to waste time. McConnell there said we need to keep talking. Yeah, he'd love to keep talking for the rest of his natural life if it stops anything from being done. Certainly if it stops the tax bill from being taken back almost entirely. The only thing that the Senate did for something like 4 years is cutting those taxes. No, of course he doesn't want that to be taken back no matter the cost. Anyway, this bit of hypocrisy is out there. Adrienne, what do you think? Is it going to be successful? Will they end up turning on this bipartisan deal?
Oh, I think that they will definitely turn on it because they have to put their own needs and corporate greeds first. And that's one of the most important things to them when it comes to the Republican agenda, is to keep that class divide. And so if this infrastructure bill were in any way going to start to even move in the direction of leveling the playing field, I think it's very, very unlikely that the Republicans would allow that to happen. And as a result, this whole effort by Biden to get the bipartisan vote and reach across the aisle, it's just going to be a waste.
I'll agree. I mean, I do think it's going to be a waste, and I do think the Republicans are not going to come around for this. But there is something here about Joe Biden's 2 different news conferences where I do think the White House made a mistake. The smart move in all of this would have been, okay, sure, you made private assurances to progressives and to Nancy Pelosi that you're going to have this linkage to the reconciliation bill. There was no need for Joe Biden to come out and state that publicly. He could have waited for reporters or waited for word to seep out from the Hill and then been cagey about it for a couple of days. But to essentially be in their face and say, oh yeah, we're going to link this to the reconciliation bill. I mean, I thought that was a self-inflicted error on the part of Joe Biden, because it did enable the Republicans to then use that as a shield and to hammer Democrats and say, this is why we're not going to support it, as opposed to making the Republicans at least sweat it for a couple days and forcing the media to have to chase this idea about, well, is there going to be linkage or not? And instead, Joe Biden essentially stepped on his own headlines within 24 hours, and that was a political mistake.
Yeah, I'm a bit torn. Nancy Pelosi had already talked about it earlier this week. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had been calling for this process. I think that you are right in that if we take as a given who Biden is, how he operates politically, the weak state of the Democratic Party, then I think that you're perhaps right. What I would love to see is a Biden who seems to get that he won the presidency, that the Democrats took the Senate, that they control the House, that the American people are supportive of these various pieces of legislation, whether it's the infrastructure bill or the For the People Act. I would love for him to tell like the Republicans to go kick rocks. They didn't win. Like, you don't get to determine every single bit of what the government does and doesn't do. And regrettably, the reason they get to do that is because some senators, I guess I have to give at least credit the fact that they're somewhat bold enough that they'll identify themselves, like Manchin and Sinema, but then also people like Tester was in the background of that video we showed you, and probably a few others as well, believe that they are in fact in charge and seem perfectly willing for, if this bipartisan bill falls apart, in theory, you could do all of it via reconciliation, but they would probably kill that. Biden could pull a Trump and he could put pressure on them. He could put some sort of cost on Manchin and Sinema, telling the American people, no, all of you want this, you don't get it because I'm not interested in it. He could call out their donors. He could start talking about supporting primary challenges against them. He could start rallying money for that or something. He's clearly not gonna do that. I'm speaking about Fantasyland as much as as if I were to begin speculating about what's gonna be in the Amazon Prime Lord of the Rings series, but all of these are things that could happen. That is how Donald Trump ruled. It didn't generate much legislation for him because he didn't really have many goals, but in theory, you as the head of the Democratic Party could actually use that power for something, but he seems completely unwilling to do that. It's all negotiation. It's all entering from a position of weakness, whether it's speaking with the Republicans or even addressing the more conservative members of his own caucus. And it's just so frustrating considering, on the one hand, the challenges that we face, and on the other hand, the fact that he spent the better part of his entire life trying to become president, and now he's just gonna just wander through it like, could I get anything? No, okay, I guess I'll wait a little bit. Maybe if we make it through the midterms with a Senate majority, then I'll get something. It's pathetic to watch.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.